I never imagined that one day I'd be struggling to breathe inside my own home because of an HOA dispute. But that's exactly where I found myself, thanks to Karen Westfield, the self-appointed queen of Sunshine Meadows, who decided my medical equipment was somehow ruining her precious neighborhood aesthetic. It all began 3 months ago when I moved into Sunshine Meadows. My doctor had recommended that I relocate to a single-story home due to my worsening COPD. The condition makes it hard for me to breathe without supplemental oxygen, especially at night. The house I chose was perfect. No stairs to climb, wide doorways for my wheelchair on bad days, and a cozy little patio where I could enjoy some fresh air. Before I bought the place, I carefully reviewed the HOA regulations and confirmed that my medical accommodations were fully protected under the Fair Housing Act. I thought I'd done everything right. 2 days after moving in, there was a sharp, almost angry knock at my front door. When I opened it, I was greeted by a woman in her mid-50s, impeccably dressed, blonde bob cut so neat it looked carved in place, and a clipboard hugged tightly against her chest like armor. "I'm Karen Westfield, president of the Sunshine Meadows HOA," she announced briskly, not even bothering to smile. Her eyes darted past me immediately, scanning my living room like she was inspecting for smuggled contraband. "I'm conducting a routine inspection of new properties. May I come in?" she said, though her tone made it sound more like an order than a question. I hesitated but stepped aside. The thin tubing from my portable oxygen concentrator trailed behind me as I moved. Karen's gaze locked on the machine, sitting beside my recliner, and her nose wrinkled in visible disgust. "What's all this?" she asked, her voice dripping with disdain. "Medical equipment," I replied calmly. "I have COPD. This helps me breathe." Karen scribbled something onto her clipboard, then looked up sharply. "Well, medical or not, it can't be visible from the street through your front windows. Section 12, Paragraph 4 of our bylaws clearly states that all homes must maintain an appealing aesthetic consistent with our community standards." I took a deep, careful breath through my nasal cannula before responding. "Actually, I reviewed those bylaws myself. Medical equipment is exempt under both HOA rules and federal law." Karen's lips tightened into a paper-thin line. "I've been running this HOA for 15 years, she snapped. "I think I know our regulations better than someone who just moved in last week." Without another word, she thrust a bright yellow notice into my hands. "You have 7 days to remedy this violation. After that, it's a $100 fine per day." That was just the beginning of my nightmare. Over the next few weeks, the violation notices came one after another. First, for leaving my garbage can out 10 minutes past pickup time. Then, for an oxygen tank visible in the backseat of my car. And even for the width of my wheelchair ramp, despite the fact that it was built exactly to ADA specifications. I tried to handle it reasonably. I sent certified letters to the HOA citing the legal protections for medical accommodations. I even showed up at an HOA meeting to address the board directly. The other board members looked uneasy whenever I brought up my equipment. It was obvious they didn't agree with Karen's obsession, but none of them dared say so out loud. After the meeting, one board member, Tom Jenkins, quietly approached me in the parking lot. "Look, I'm sorry about all this," he said in a low voice. "Karen gets intense about things like this. She's been president so long that the rest of us usually just let her handle everything." "This isn't just about annoyance," I told him, tapping the metal of my oxygen tank for emphasis. "These are violations against equipment I need to survive. It's discrimination, and it's illegal." Tom glanced around nervously and nodded. "I'll try to talk to her," he murmured. "But be careful. The last guy who challenged her, his hedges got poisoned. A month later, he moved out." That was when I realized Karen wasn't just difficult. She was dangerous. The harassment only escalated from there. She began photographing my house almost daily, claiming to be documenting ongoing violations. One afternoon, I caught her outside, standing right up against my living room window, camera in hand, snapping pictures while I was sitting inside trying to read. That's when I knew this was no longer about HOA rules. This was personal. When I opened the door to confront her that day, she didn't even flinch. "Community inspection," she said curtly, before turning on her heel and strutting back to her house 3 doors down. That was it for me. The next morning, I installed security cameras around my property. Nothing illegal about that. Karen's precious HOA rulebook didn't cover my right to protect myself. I didn't know it then, but that decision would end up saving my life. The real nightmare began last Tuesday. I was having an especially difficult day. Each breath felt like I was dragging air through wet cement. I had settled into my recliner, oxygen dialed up a bit higher than usual, just trying to rest. The doorbell rang. Through my phone's security app, I saw her again, Karen Westfield, clipboard in hand, standing on my porch with that familiar look of self-importance plastered on her face. I ignored it. After 3 months of constant harassment, I was done engaging. Let her leave another violation notice. I was documenting everyone for my lawyer. 10 minutes later, I heard a loud metallic clang from my side yard, the area where the external compressor for my home oxygen system was installed. Then my portable unit started beeping an alarm. The pressure was dropping fast. Panic surged through me as I fumbled for my emergency backup tank. My hands were trembling, my chest tightening. Before I could even attach the hose, the front door burst open. Karen stood there in the doorway, panting slightly, a ring of keys jingling in her hand. As HOA president, "I have access keys for emergencies," she announced proudly. "And your continued violations are an emergency to our community standards." I was gasping for air, barely able to speak. "What did you do?" I managed between ragged breaths. Karen smirked. "I disconnected that eyesore outside. Section 15 clearly states that no external mechanical equipment can be installed without board approval. You never submitted the proper forms." My vision was tunneling as I struggled to connect my backup tank. I could hardly hear her gloating, but my cameras caught everything. Her walking straight to my oxygen unit, deliberately turning the valves closed, then removing a small part and slipping it into her pocket. All the while, she muttered to herself about teaching him a lesson about following the rules. I finally managed to get the backup tank working and took a desperate breath of air before dialing 911. "I need police and an ambulance," I gasped to the dispatcher. "A woman broke into my home, disabled my medical equipment. I can't breathe well." Karen's face shifted from smug to startled as she heard me. "Oh, don't be so dramatic," she snapped. "I was enforcing community guidelines." "You're fine now." Within minutes, flashing lights filled my front yard. 2 police cruisers and an ambulance. The paramedics rushed in, helping me stabilize my oxygen levels and checking my vitals while I replayed the footage from my phone. One of the officers watched the video silently, his expression growing darker with every second. Karen stood in the middle of my living room with her arms crossed. "This is HOA business," she said firmly. "We have covenants he agreed to when he purchased this property. I was simply enforcing them." "Ma'am," the officer began, his tone calm but cold. "You entered his home without permission, tampered with life-sustaining medical equipment and removed components. That's breaking and entering criminal negligence, and possibly attempted manslaughter." Karen's jaw dropped. "But I have access keys. As president, I can—" The officer cut her off. "Aesthetic violations aren't emergencies, ma'am. Please turn around and place your hands behind your back." Her face went ghostly white as he pulled out his handcuffs. Even as they let her out, she kept babbling about bylaws and property values, her voice trembling with outrage and disbelief. Outside, a crowd had gathered. Neighbors stood on their lawns, watching as the once untouchable HOA president of Sunshine Meadows was escorted to the back of a police car. For the first time since I'd moved in, the neighborhood was silent. 2 days later, I was released from the hospital after a short stay for observation. When I got home, there was a certified letter waiting for me from the HOA board. They had called an emergency meeting. Karen Westfield was unanimously removed as HOA president, effective immediately. All fines against me were rescinded, and my medical accommodations were officially approved and protected going forward. Then this morning, I got a call from the district attorney. Karen is facing multiple felony charges: breaking and entering, tampering with medical equipment, theft of medical components, and reckless endangerment. Her real estate license has already been suspended, effectively ending her career. She's looking at serious jail time and financial damages that might force her to sell her beloved Sunshine Meadows home. I happened to see her earlier today, escorted by her attorney to collect her things from the HOA office. When she spotted me sitting on my porch, oxygen tank beside me, she froze, her expression twisted, shock, disbelief, and rage all at once. For the first time since I'd met her, Karen Westfield, the woman who once ruled this neighborhood like a queen, was utterly speechless. And this time I didn't have to say a word.